Welcome back into the 143. This is episode 106, coming at you live under review.
We had another interesting slate of games this past weekend. The divisional round is over, and it is
Some
on
good games.
to the championship of each conference.
A lot of games came down to the wire.
We're inching closer to the end.
Isn't it interesting how it took
football
like
season.
21 weeks to finally get some good games?
It is. Well, because you weeded out all the bad teams by this point.
Yeah, just like all the primetime games, we're finally getting some good ones, and it's because it's the playoffs.
Yep.
So, there are 4 teams left,
Yep.
and it's shaping up to be a pretty cool next few weeks for football. Sad it's about to be over. It always goes by way too fast, but we're about to hit the off season, which is not as fun.
Exactly. There were some kicker disputes this week.
Kickers
A
ruined
lot
it.
of people not happy with the way their kickers performed, but we can get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah. Stat of the week brought to you by Andrews Logistics. 3 of the 4 quarterbacks remaining were taken in the first round. There's one QB who was drafted last overall, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, finds himself in the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
And this time, maybe he'll play the entire game, unlike last year.
Broccolus Purdy once again has found himself in the NFC Championship. That is 2 years in a row. So good for him.
He's proven everyone wrong, Proven
Last
everyone
year was not really a fair
got hurt in the first
showing
drive.
of his talent in the NFC Championship because the Eagles get lucky like they always do, and Brock Purdy gets injured, and so they. But hey, he's here. He's back
here.
again to prove everyone wrong. So, with that, your player of the week. I had to. It was pretty tough because there were a lot of good performances
There
this
was.
week. People coming in clutch. I went with Christian McCaffrey. He really
Beast.
burst onto the scene in the second half of their game. 17 carries for 98 yards and 2 total touchdowns, one of which was the go-ahead touchdown that solidified the win. He also caught 7 passes for 30 yards, but it was a good showing from Christian McCaffrey. Helped get the 49ers that win. There is some questions about what the 49ers will be able to accomplish next week because Deebo Samuel has had some shoulder issues.
Yeah, it's going to be tough if Debo's out.
And he's an absolute weapon.
He's Brock's guy.
So it's tough to be playing without him.
Lions secondary has proven to be their weak point on defense. They can give up some pretty big plays down the field. So if you don't have Debo, that's pretty tough. But Juwan Jennings also came in for him, played a good game.
Yep.
So they've got a good replacement, but obviously Debo is world class.
Brock still came in, put together a game-winning drive. So
Yeah, a little
it was
shaky.
good to see him clutch up a little bit at the end.
A little shaky during the game. For a while, it looked like the Packers might actually win the game. Jordan Love came out, played phenomenally. Packers are looking to be a good team for the future, unfortunately, again.
Yep.
They're just a good organization. They know how to draft. They know how to develop players as they develop Jordan Love, and it's looking like they got themselves another franchise QB.
All their receivers are extremely, extremely young and pretty talented.
Very talented.
But this Packers game was the first of the 2 games that had kicker issues because their kicker, Carlson, would miss a field goal that would put them ahead by 7, ultimately leading to when the 49ers would drive down and score that touchdown. Rather than it being a go-ahead touchdown for San Francisco, it would have just tied the game for the Packers. So whenever the end of the game rolled around, Jordan Love could be driving down the field with the possibility to win the game rather than trying to tie it. But then, you know how that game ended? He chunks it across the field into triple coverage. Dre Greenlaw gets his second interception of the day and just ices the game for the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great pick, but at the same time, it was pretty unlikely they would drive down the field. They didn't have that much time left on the clock. No timeouts. But, yeah, in the end, that comes down to the kicker missing the field goal. It was a pretty short field goal.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was like 40 yards, routine field goal. Couldn't come through on the road. So the Niners get the win. Everyone thought they would make it this far. I mean, it's
they've
not
had some
surprising.
problems with him throughout this entire regular season. Like, he's missed some pretty big kicks for them early on. But, I mean, if you're a Packers fan, I think you got to be happy with
Yeah,
the
you
way
beat
your
the
season
Cowboys.
ended.
You came in, you routed the Cowboys. And
You didn't really know how the season was going to go because this was Jordan Love's first start. All of his weapons, or his first year as the starter. You know, he's got young weapons. You don't really know how they were going to work out. Obviously, they came to Dallas and took down the 2 seed. And then, I mean, they still went toe-to-toe with the San Francisco 49ers. It
They
came
did.
down to a field goal. So, I mean, I'd be pretty proud
They
of
went further
how
than
your
anyone
season
thought
went.
they would. Nobody thought they would make it to the playoffs even. So, I mean, yeah, you want the Super Bowl, but, I mean, realistically, you weren't getting it this year. So, a playoff win with Jordan Love in his first year. Nothing but fortune looks like going to follow the Packers. Niners, on the other hand, go to the championship. Everyone, figured they'd be here at the end of the season. They got to go through the Lions, who have shocked everyone this year, come out, played great football, have taken care of business, made it to their first NFC championship game in maybe a century. That's not a real stat, but they have not been
Something like that. Yeah.
They have not been winning playoff games in 31 years, and they're in the NFC Championship now. Dan Campbell got his boys ready to go. Jared Goff's dealing. The defensive line is playing out of their mind right now. Got to hand it to the Bucs as well. The Bucs weren't really supposed to be in the divisional round, but they were. So I think as a Bucs fan, you look at this season as a win as well. I mean, them winning a playoff game, and then, I mean, coming close in Detroit. The Bucs just couldn't figure out how to block on the O-line. There was always a rusher coming free. He was not even touched.
It seemed like they started out really strong. Offense was looking pretty decent, but then they sort of crumbled there in the second half. Baker Mayfield threw 2 picks. Mm-hmm. The first one, not necessarily his fault. I mean, he hit.
Yeah. Mike Evans off the hands.
It was a 3rd and long. He hits Mike Evans right in the hands and then ends up it goes straight up into the air and he gets picked off. But the Lions' offense has been looking pretty deadly all season long from top to bottom. I mean, they have a really good 1-2 punch with their running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Jared Goff is looking pretty good this season. You know, they've played well at home, but now they got to travel to San Francisco. But the 49ers were not looking all that big and scary like people were expecting them.
No, they were not.
No one, even though it was a playoff game, no one was really giving the Green Bay Packers a chance. And the Packers were in control of that game for most of it. And but the 49ers, you know, they clutched up there at the end. They're a playoff team. They've been here before. They know what it's like. So the Detroit Lions are still going to have to play their best football if they want to get through San Fran.
You got to look at it like the Niners players hadn't played in about 3 weeks. They had an off week. They didn't play the week before against the Rams either. So, I mean, they probably were a little rusty coming off, and that's definitely what it seemed like. Just everyone a little rusty, even Brock. I don't think Brock Purdy will play as bad as he did this past weekend, and also it shouldn't be as bad weather as it was Sunday night in San Francisco. Excited to see that game. I think it'll be a good game. We'll see. Lions, like we said, a lot of weapons, a lot of power from the Lions, but you know, their secondary has been kind of not as great, and that could be the thing that
might be their downfall.
But if they don't get to the quarterback in time, it's tough for them.
It's a good head coaching matchup. Also, you got Shanahan versus Campbell. Shanahan, phenomenal offensive mind, just absolute offensive guru, and then Dan Campbell, the ultimate motivator. You know, like he could get you to run through a wall. He's put so much time and effort to bring this team to where it is today. You know, you look at where it started. His first year, I believe they were 3-13-1, if I remember correctly. And then you fast forward 2 years later to his third year, and they're 12-5, on their way to a NFC championship game against the 49ers. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think it's the 2:00 game on Sunday. So not it'll be a good one. And whoever makes it to the Super Bowl from those teams, I mean, they deserve to be there. Both teams have played great all year and played good in the playoffs. So on to the AFC. Ravens took care of business against the Texans. Another team where it's like, Texans were not expected to be good at all this season. They got a gem of a coach and a great quarterback and very young team. A lot like the Packers. They will be good for years to come.
All the success that they were having this year, I think, was expected to happen maybe like 3 years down the road when, DeMeco Ryans has given a couple years as the head coach. When you develop C.J. Stroud a little bit, when all the other guys they drafted this year develop a little bit more, and then maybe when they draft a few more guys, but they really turned around that franchise literally in one season. It took one season. But their offense came to a screeching halt the other day against the Ravens. They scored 10 points. The touchdown that they scored was off of a punt return. So, there's not
offensive touchdowns.
There's not really much to say there. The Ravens defense,
they couldn't move the ball.
Came out and handled business. They were looking extremely good. You got a lot of young guys going into a hostile playoff atmosphere in Baltimore. And Baltimore, this is a group of seasoned guys who have been ready for this moment. Lamar Jackson has been ready. He's taken some criticism for his playoff performance, even though he's a running back. And so it was good for them to take care of business.
The Ravens defense is phenomenal.
Over here, we're big fans of the Harbaughs.
Yep.
That entire family, they're just winners. That's all they do is produce winners. So it's no surprise
their
that they're
teams are
on their way
always
to the AFC Championship.
Always up there, always fighting, always contenders, and that defense is phenomenal. Mike McDonald is going to be a head coach probably next year, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. They've done a great job this year. Offensively, they just run over people, and I say run because they don't really have a passing game. And I don't know at what point that will become exploited, if at all, because of the defense they have. They haven't really had to pass the ball as much. Lamar Jackson had 100 yards rushing and only 156 yards passing. And every play he would drop back to pass, he took off it for a run anyways. Nick and I were not impressed with the offensive side of the ball from the Ravens because...
the defense made it so easy for them, holding... it was the special teams unit that was, I guess, the biggest issue because they were the only people out there that gave up a touchdown. Just that dumb little punt return. But the Ravens' defense makes it extremely easy for the offense. 10 points, that's not very hard to overcome as an offense. And obviously, like Joseph said, Lamar Jackson just exploiting his legs as a runner, obviously. It's super flashy, it looks cool, but the thing is once he faces a defense that's able to, maybe throw a QB spy on him or help contain him in the pocket and force him to pass, that might be their ultimate downfall.
He's a great athlete, but I think you win against the Ravens if you force Lamar to pass, but that means you have to score on the defense, and that means you have to get ahead of the Ravens, and that's tough to do, and that's how they've been winning, and that's how they've been dominating.
They will be facing a better defense in the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, and a better offense.
They've had a good, just better overall team, but they have a good defensive unit,
good pass rush.
Spags, as they like to call him up there in Kansas City. He's done a really good job, and let's just go ahead and get into it. The Kansas City Chiefs taking care of business in Buffalo.
Highly anticipated game between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Yep, another highly anticipated matchup. We've seen these two duke it out over the last couple years, and unfortunately for Josh Allen, he has not been able to get over that hump of beating Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Everyone thought it might be a little bit different this year because for the first time they would play in Buffalo, so Josh would have home field advantage. But
it was Mahomes' first road playoff game.
Unfortunately for Josh, he still couldn't get over it. Isaiah Pacheco, he had a good day yesterday, on Sunday, and then Travis Kelce getting involved again. A lot of
Two touchdowns.
A lot of people were complaining about his performances over this last regular season, but he's shown up pretty huge for the team in that AFC divisional round. He's just getting everyone involved. You know, Patrick Mahomes doing what he does best, coming up clutch in certain situations, threw 2 touchdowns for 215 yards. And Josh Allen, it's unfortunate that he's not been able to beat Patrick Mahomes. But with that being said, what we mentioned the other day is now can we talk about the Bills' failure in the playoffs? Because they're getting a little bit – I mean, it's essentially the same as the Cowboys.
It's the exact same as the Cowboys.
With what they produce in the playoffs, it is almost the exact – you're getting the exact same product. Solid regular season, and then it comes to a screeching halt
against
in January.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
And that's like us with the 49ers. So, I mean, you know, when you can't beat this team that dominates you every year, it's pretty sad because you really just, like, can't get over the one team.
I just think that needs to be pointed out because as Cowboys fans, you know, we're front and center of this issue, right? But we're the only ones that get highlighted for it. But the Bills have been doing it every year for the last, like, 4 years or whatever the actual number is.
Bills
and
were
no one talks about it.
5-6, I think, through 11 games of the season, go on a 5-game winning streak, win the division. Now the 5 teams they beat, 2 of them were really bad that they barely beat, and then like the Cowboys and the Dolphins were just trending down at that point. That nobody was figuring it out. So the Bills kind of got fortunate in the times they played these teams, went into the playoffs, played the Steelers. Obviously, Steelers should have never been in the playoffs. So easy win for the Bills there. This was their first true test in a long time. And, I mean, neither team could stop the run. Chiefs and Bills were terrible against the run yesterday, which Chiefs need to work on that to play the Ravens because that's all they do, like we said. But in the end, it came down to Tyler Bass kicking a field goal to tie the game up and another 44-yard field goal, and it was wide right.
Just shanked it.
It was a terrible kick.
It was not even close. I mean, as soon as it went up in the air, it just immediately darted to the right.
But like any game, like there were other times they should have capitalized and they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Bills just need to figure out what their future is because the fans are definitely tired of it. As Cowboys fans, we're tired of it with our team. Like, I don't think they're going to make any major changes, just like we didn't make any major changes. But you know what's the issue and what's it going to be? You know, because you can't beat Mahomes. And this year you had them at home, and you know they were arguably a worse Chiefs team this year than previous years, and they still couldn't beat them. So
the Bills looked in control for most of the game, but they just got outperformed. I guess the Bills looked really good in the first half, but they got outplayed in the second half.
You want to know why? Because football comes down to passing, okay? And I'm so tired of these run-first quarterbacks. All right, if your first read's not there and your next instinct is to take off with the ball, then you shouldn't be a quarterback. All right, because your job is to throw. And I'm so tired of watching Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen play. So I honestly, I hope that Lamar has to throw the ball on Sunday because I'm so tired of watching him run. Your job is not a running back.
I will say with that, though, there were some crucial drop passes from the Bills yesterday. I mean, there were 2. I'm thinking of, in particular, for example, 2 really deep throws. Like he uncorks a 70-yard bomb to Stephon Diggs that goes right through his hands, and then a similar situation to Sherfield Jr. He uncorks a 70-yard bomb that gets dropped, and so those are also costly errors that come back to bite you in the end of the game. You know, it doesn't ultimately come down to that missed field goal. It's a bunch of plays stacked up on top of each other that makes that field goal, unfortunately, worth a lot more than it actually should be.
There were definitely some drops. I don't know. The team, I don't think Stephon Diggs wants to be a Bill anymore. I mean, he should probably leave. It'd be better for him, better for the team as a whole. But the Bills have all the weapons, so I don't know what the answer is for the Bills. Really talented team, just like us, and they might have a better quarterback than we do. I don't know. But, you know, either way, they got to figure it out. The Chiefs will be moving on to the AFC Championship in Baltimore. It'll be a really hostile environment for them. And it should be a really good game. I think both of these conference championship games are going to be really good this year. I'm excited for both of them. Obviously, like Mahomes in the championship, conference championship. It's 6 years in a row now. That's pretty impressive. And then, you've got the Lions in their first conference championship in a long time. The Niners where they're supposed to be. So the two number one seeds have made it. You've got the Lions and the Chiefs fighting for an upset. So should be some really good football played on Sunday. Hopefully neither game is a blowout, and hopefully they both come down to the last 2 minutes of the game.
Lamar Jackson trying to prove himself as a playoff caliber quarterback. His playoff record is very underwhelming.
Because when all you do is run,
very unimpressive.
It's hard to
as
win.
The number one seed, they're looking to do something with that. Brock Purdy wants a redo.
He's a real quarterback.
Already alluded to that earlier in this episode.
Brock Purdy wants to play. Yeah, he wants to play the game.
Last year, getting injured, and so it's nice to see. I mean, I won't say it's nice to see, but
it'll be nice
it'll be interesting to see.
We're tired of backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nick, who you got in the Super Bowl?
I mean, saying the Chiefs seems like such a easy answer, but it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes just because of how clutch he is in the playoffs. I do, however, think that the Ravens are going to. I think they'll give Mahomes a run for his money, and I think it'll be a close one. But I'll take the Ravens in spite of Patrick Mahomes' clutch ability. Give me a Ravens. I think it might be a Ravens 49ers Super Bowl.
All right. Okay. That would obviously be the two number one seeds going head to head. That'd be a pretty good matchup.
Yep.
I'm going with the Chiefs because I don't want the Ravens to win because as much as I love their coach, I don't like Lamar Jackson very much, in case y'all can't tell. And, so I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and it is going to be a very hard game for the Chiefs to win.
I will say the one of the four teams that are left, who I'm rooting for is the Lions. Like, ideally, they would win it all this year for me. I don't really want to see any of the other teams win it.
That Niners-Lions game, I think, is going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm going to go with the Niners, too, so a Chiefs-Niners rematch. But, I mean, obviously would not be shocked if Ravens or Lions end up winning their games. I mean, these teams are pretty evenly matched right now, and which is exactly what you want in the playoffs, so if your team's not in it. And ours is not, so we hope for some good games.
Well, here would you like to end our shows on Under Review. I brought you a quote from LaMichael James. He said, "Nobody's taller than the last man standing." And that's the truth.
That is a fact.
So take that with you for the rest of this week. Enjoy the last couple weeks of football that we have, because it is unfortunately nearing its end.
Then we got to move on to
something else.
2 months of no relevant sports. All right. Well, we will see y'all next week with these updates from the games and another episode of Under Review.